Hello everybody and welcome. Today I am bringing you a video that I have made in the past, but I am bringing it back. I was actually going through some of my old Google Drive notes, slideshows, stuff that I just had in there, and I found some old videos that I had done for card runners back in the day. And since I have been starting to play live poker again a bit more, and I haven't been able to stream as much, I was like, oh, this is kind of a cool video here that I could do again that I haven't talked about in many, many years. So it seemed relevant. I hope you enjoy it. This is my from online player to live poker player. And this is a basic video, and my goal is to just help you get a little bit more comfortable playing live poker. So this is not some high level GTO like high stakes live player informational video that you're going to get here. This is my feels and kind of some of the notes that I've made, some of the adjustments and things like that. So I'm going to get into it, and if you like the video, please don't forget to drop a like, leave me a comment below, let me know what you think, or if you have any questions. And if you do enjoy the content, please also don't forget to hit the subscribe button. All right, so first thing here, like I said, this video is going to focus on building confidence while playing in a live poker setting. That is my main goal. That was the goal that I had with myself when I first came from online and started to play live. I was shaky and I just wasn't comfortable. So I kind of had to sit and compartmentalize things, learn about myself, and see what I could do and change to get better. Like I said, this is brought to you from the eyes of an online poker player here who plays live occasionally, but the majority of my experience is online. I do think that people who play live can still benefit from this video, especially if you've been playing live recreationally for a while and you kind of just go there to have fun. Maybe you want to get a little bit more comfortable and find a little something that can help you improve your game. There might be something in this video for you as well. And the material here in this video is primarily based off my personal experiences, conversations, but it does include some additional items and thoughts that I have researched or had in conversation with people. So I hope you enjoy it. So what are the potential advantages for the online player? And I would say generally softer fields if you're playing kind of the low limit live games, which I would consider to be like 1-2, 1-3, maybe even 2-5 live cash games. And then as far as the tournaments go, where I've had the majority of my experience, is like from the like circuit main events, $1,600 and below. Primarily, let's say the 365s, which are actually like 400s now, and the $500 circuit events. So basically anything under like $1,600, $1,700, I would consider low for live. So I think those fields are generally softer than online. And another advantage for us online players is if you bust a live tourney, we just get to go back and fire up online if you want, or you can re-enter. And then also, I believe with the amount of hands that online players get to see, that we do have an opportunity to be a bit more trained than some of the live players. So our understanding of poker fundamentals and things like that could be a bit more advanced, which gives us potentially more edge over the live player field, which is obviously nice. But there's obviously, with this video, there are some adjustments that need to be made. Now, some disadvantages, I think, for the online player are going to be, where's my HUD at? I think that was something at first that really hit me because I do enjoy using my HUD and I use it a lot when I play online. But we just don't have access to the same information online or live as we do online, right? So I've found it challenging to gather all that information now instead of just looking at the screen and seeing everybody's chip stack, how much is in the pot, bet sizes, like all of these things. Now when you're playing live poker, it's like you have to reprogram and you have to slow down and like, look, okay, how much did they bet pre-flop? Okay, how much is in the pot? What's the board? And now you have to physically look around the table and see how people are acting, see what people's chip stacks are. Because now if I'm thinking about re-raising somebody over here, now I have to consider how many chips people behind me have and like look and see, because if I 3-bet, I might commit to somebody who is behind me. So that's something where if you're looking online, you could see, oh, if I re-raise, I'm going to be committing to this guy, and you can just access the information so much quicker. Whereas live, you actually have to grab it, physically put it all together in your mind, and that could be tough at first. I know it was for me, for sure. Another thing that I think could be a potential disadvantage for online players is one table is not super stimulating. I mean, there is the live interaction, playing of the chips. There's other things we can do to stay stimulated. But I know a lot of people, myself included at first, where it's like, I just need more going on. And you see people like on their phones scrolling just to keep your mind busy. And it can be challenging. So as far as setting yourself up for success, because I think this is another thing that professionals, people who want to get the most out of themselves, should and need to be thinking about, is how do you set yourself up for success? So my advice is that I've given myself, and the way that I like to organize it in my mind, is go into each day of playing live poker as if you were a professional athlete. And I think a lot of people can relate to this because, you know, the greatest athletes out there, they don't just roll out of bed in their sweatpants, you know, smoke a J, and then go out on the field and expect to perform their best, for example, right? It's all about preparation. Like, you will find a lot of content out there, some of these high stakes poker player crushers who are talking about meditation, diet, working out, like all of these things, and they find a higher level of success. And I don't think that's just a coincidence. I know myself personally, I have done the online poker player slob, eat whatever you want, smoke, drink, party, and then get up and grind and just like play as many tables as you can and expect to find success. And it's probably when I've gone on my biggest downswings. It's like, bro, really? So yeah, I just think that there's things that we can do to set ourselves up for success. And live poker, in my opinion, versus online poker might even be a little bit more important because there's a lot more energy that you kind of put out, in my opinion, because you're sitting there live, you're having conversations, you have to sit and you're in front of people and the energy is just different. You know, it's much more draining in my opinion. I could sit online and play a 12-hour session and then afterwards watch a movie, chill, eat something, you know, kind of do stuff. After a 12-hour grind, a day one in some live tournament, I am exhausted. I go back to the hotel. I can barely eat. I'm tired. I just want to sleep. So it hits different, in my opinion. So just think about, you know, what highly successful people do. Athletes, I think, is a example that a lot of people connect with. What do they do before they go out on the field and perform? And then whatever works for you, do those things and try to do your best to set yourself up for success. And see if, you know, you're trained, your routine, good diet, in better shape version of you does better than your sloppy, lazy, I just roll out of bed and try to perform version. And I think you're going to learn a lot. I know I have from myself as well. So some food for thought on that one. I think it's pretty important. All right. Now, getting your mind right before playing. Now, the last slide kind of talks a bit about that, and I think it does connect with this one. But some things that I like to tell myself or talk to myself about before I start to play live poker are these things, okay? So now we have set ourselves up for success, we've worked out, we did whatever, and then now what are some picture this, you're in a huddle with your team, whether you played baseball, basketball, you ran cross country, whatever like kind of team sport, if you've ever done that in your life. Think about like before a game starts, coach huddles everyone up, and they're like, okay guys, you know, don't forget about this, remember this, you know, XYZ, let's go out there and let's play our best and have fun. Something like that, right? So I think as poker players, we don't really have that, so we kind of need to give that to ourselves. Like, it only helps, right? So some things that me transitioning from playing online to live that I've had to tell myself are these. Let the game come to you. Number one, let the game come to you, because the action is slower. We're not quite as stimulated. You go from playing 6+ games to one game. and it can feel really slow, and I think it's super easy to get bored. So just take in the information, don't force stuff, because it's so easy to do. It's so easy to do. Just like, I want to play a hand, raise. I want to play a hand, 3-bet. Be like, bro, slow down, right? So let the game come to you. I think that's super important. Don't let your phone distract you. Again, this is another thing coming from online to live. It's like, I need something to be happening. I need to do something. But the fact of the matter is when we're staring at our phone and going through our feeds and just scrolling, we are missing out on information. We're missing out on showdowns, how people are playing hands, what they're showing up with, how much did they bet on the turn and river, how much did they call. There's so many things that we need to kind of take in and absorb so that we know how to make educated decisions later. And it's super easy to, again, get distracted and be on your phone. Find other things at the table to pay attention to keep you focused on the game. It's easier said than done, but it can be done. Trust me. This is massive for me personally. This one I struggle with constantly, even to this day, like getting back into live poker if I'm not into a rhythm, because I'm primarily playing online and then just occasionally taking trips to go play live. This one is massive for me. But take your time thinking through decisions. And I think that we will easily feel rushed, and not even by other people. Our subconscious, after playing online so much, you're trained to act within 60 seconds. And 60 seconds playing live is like 10 seconds. But we have to do so much more live than we would online. Again, we have to look at people's chip stacks. We have to look at people behind us, around us. How much was in the pot pre-flop? What's the pot at right now? And then on top of it, after you gather all that information, now you have to start thinking about, okay, what's their range? What do I have here? What do I want to bet here? What do I think they're going to think? Live reads. There's a gazillion things to think about, and it's a lot. And I find myself personally, after 30 seconds, like starting to feel rushed and feel like I need to make a decision, because I have this internal clock that's just so trained to online. But it's different live, and you need to take your time. I'm talking to myself here, right? But I know a lot of people out there are going to connect with this. Take your time. Think through the decisions. Look at what's going on, and don't feel rushed, and then make a good decision, right? It's so huge. It's so huge, and I can't emphasize that one enough. And man, I hope I remember, because I just a week ago was playing in a live cash game, and I felt myself feeling rushed, and I had to like tell myself, just like, buddy, it's okay, like slow down. You might have to do that to yourself. You know, you gotta do it. And then the last item here on this one is leave your ego at the door. We go through these stages in poker, and you build an ego in some sort of way, especially once you first start to get good. You build an ego, you're confident, you're happy, you kind of like want to embrace that, but it's easy to let your ego take you over. And I think online players have this attitude or this ego that they're miles ahead of these live players, which maybe, right? But we can't let that control us to the point where we start to try to run the table, try to run over the table. We start to make emotional decisions, and then you lose a pot. And you're like, oh, I shouldn't be losing to this bomb and stuff like that. Like, I feel like this is another space where we can get distracted a little bit, and we just need to make sure that we are continuing to make logical decisions, take our time, gather everything that we need to, and then make a good decision, go from there, boom, be done with it. Okay, now here are some more thoughts while playing here. And this is another big one for me, actually. Get comfortable in your chair. This is something I remember my very first live tournament that I went and played. It was in Tunica, Mississippi, right? Tunica, Mississippi. And I was just like, couldn't get comfortable sitting in my chair. And what I started to notice was whenever I was in a hand that would maybe make me uncomfortable, I was bluffing, felt like I was getting bluffed, I didn't know what to do with my hand. Anytime I would get uncomfortable, my body would get even more uncomfortable, and I'd have to like shift in my seat and stuff. So it was tough for me to stay composed. And then I start to get in my head, it's like, oh, I'm moving, I'm adjusting. They know, they like can tell that I'm weak. So eventually what I found out is you need to get comfortable, good posture, get into like a sitting space where you can just be, relaxed and you could take in the information. You don't have to move. You're not uncomfortable. And if an uncomfortable situation arises, you're still there just kind of like taking it, and boom, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this, blah, blah. And you're not thinking about it. You're not moving. That was actually pretty big for me once I figured that out, because it allowed for me to just be relaxed. The edge is post-flop, thoughts while playing live. This is huge. I think online, especially over the past years, there's been a lot of like button clicking days. There's definitely like a button clicking era where it was like 6-bet pre-flop, 7-bet, 8-bet, 9-bet, like all this crazy stuff. And I think with live poker, again, especially the lower buy-in range live poker, the edge is post-flop. People are not really there pre-flop, so you got to think about how much edge we have post-flop and take it to the streets. We're going to be winning the biggest pots on the river, and people are not going to know how to handle double barrels, triple barrels, big bets on the river, all this other stuff. But they're going to go see a flop. They're going to see a flop. Do you get what I'm saying? So they're going to be taking a wider range there. So we really need to be strong post-flop and be confident going there and playing more pots with players that we think we have an edge on. Another huge thing for live poker, which I feel like don't have to think about as much online, though it is a thing, but I think it's more of a thing playing live poker, is to understand your image. People will for sure adjust and call you down lighter if they think you're aggressive, or if they think you're tight, they will call you tighter and not give you action. I've seen it happen to me a bunch. If I played real tight, I'll bet and I can never get called. And it used to be the most frustrating thing playing live. And then I play too aggressive. I'm bluffing too much and people are just calling me down and I'm looking like an idiot again. Like they just call. It's like, why are you bluffing again? And they just know. And I also have heard these conversations. People will say, oh, this guy's aggressive. They're just going to call. And also another thing too, though, I also think that, like, for instance, if you have like a baseball cap on, you look like a younger person with a backwards baseball cap, I think that the majority of live regs are going to assume you're aggressive. You're some young gunner who's going to try to win the pot with your muscle and your brain and all of that. And they're going to kind of assume you're a little bit more aggressive. I think also if you are an older gentleman, gray hair, quiet, kind of keep to yourself, people are generally going to think that you're playing a bit tighter. And older players could exploit that. So understanding your image is a huge, huge thing for playing live. Understanding how people are interpreting your image is huge. You can tell by, again, watching showdowns, seeing how people are calling you. How are they playing other people? Just like being focused at the table. It's massive. And this last note I had here, be detail-oriented. Seek out the information you need to make good decisions. Again, just pay attention. Figure out people's baselines, see what they're doing, and then just go from there. All right. And then I have some notes here from my live circuit stop journal. I would keep little notes on my phone, or when I would get back, I would type up notes on, a tournament or whatever, stuff that stuck out to me. And then here are some things that did not hit the cutting room floor. And the first one is determine opponent's baseline way of acting. Okay, so this was something that was interesting, and I remember the very first instance that I kind of deviated from my baseline. And what I mean by baseline is like, watch how people are generally acting. Are they typically loud? Are they typically quiet? Are they confident? Are they bashful? Are they confrontational, not confrontational? Do they like to gab in pots when they're on the river? Do they not? Like, this stuff can be very telling. And I remember I was in a hand, again, down at Tunica, Mississippi. I flopped a set versus this guy. And then I think on the turn, they ended up folding 2-pair to me. And I had a set and I had him beat. I was like, wow, a live player folded 2-pair. I was like, what was going on? And I thought about it. And that was my first kind of bigger live tournament that I was playing. Bigger. It was a 365. And I was like, how did he fold? And then I thought back, and that entire tournament, I was just trying to be quiet. I knew that I did not have any sort of gift to the gab. I didn't know how to do that stuff playing live. And I remember in that hand, I started to talk to him. He was starting to think about his hand and knew he had something. And I was like, well, what do you have? And I like, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I like started to speak. It wasn't even intentional. I just knew I was ahead and I started to speak, and he folded and he tabled 2 pair, right? And it really got me to think. And it was like, okay, I've been quiet this whole time. Why did I start talking? And how did he know to fold 2 pair? And basically what I had come to the conclusion is my baseline was that I was quiet, not saying anything. And then all of a sudden in this hand, I'm confident, I'm happy, and I'm talking to this guy trying to get him to call here, and I was just trying something different or doing something different, and it empowered him to fold 2 pair. And that was the moment that I realized that when people, especially quiet players, are comfortable, confident enough to break away from their baseline and start talking, typically it's not because they're bluffing. Typically it's because they're happy with their hand. They're happy in their situation, that they're able to break away from their baseline way of acting. And that was a huge moment for me. Now another way on the other side is that middle-aged guy who's got his hair slicked back and confident and like some Hawaii shirt on or something. I don't know. I'm trying to paint a picture. And they go from blah, 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 gabbing all the time. And then there's this big pot. They put out a big bet on the river here, and they're all of a sudden quiet. That's another one where it's like, what is this? You know, they're breaking away from their baseline, blah, 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 blah. Now all of a sudden quiet because they're uncomfortable. Do you get what I'm saying? And then now they're kind of clamming up because they're bluffing on the river. They don't like get like confident or happy and then just shut up if they're always talking. Like that doesn't make sense. So just to give you another idea on opponents' baselines and how you could potentially get some reads and things that I've noticed. Now here's these next 2 notes that I have. Playing versus thinking players. I found that it's more important. Players that you deem are good players, strong players. It is more important to think about what it looks like we have, our perceived range of hands in a spot. It is more important to our strategy, the story that we are telling them with the way we play our hand. Whereas versus card players, recreational players, players who are just playing their hand only, it is more important for us to be focused on what we perceive their range to be. It is more important what cards we think they have versus what we are telling them we have, if that makes sense, because we're going to play our strategy based on what we think their holdings are, but maybe versus a thinking player, we're going to try to tell a different story and not focus as much on what they have, though we're still focusing on that, but we know they're going to be reading our story more, and we need to react accordingly, whereas reading a recreational player's story is going to be, or their cards, what we think they have, we should base that, and we could do stuff that doesn't make sense because they're mostly focused on their cards. Okay, so I hope you understand that one. Another like random note here that I have: when card players sloppily throw in their chips, it's meant to look bluffy. I got had on this so many times, and I've subconsciously done it myself, so I know that this is a thing. Like a player who like keeps it all together. Again, think of the baselines. They keep it all together. They stack their chips nice, and then all of a sudden, in some random spot, they're betting and they're just splashing chips in the middle. It's like, bro, you have the nicest chip stack at the entire table. You've always slid out your chips. You've been very like stacked them nice, and all of a sudden in the thing, you're just gonna like splash them in. So many times I've seen people do that, tight players, myself included at times, and it's meant to look bluffy, and they just always have it. And whether they're thinking about it or not, I've noticed that's definitely a thing. The I fold you show. If you are asking somebody who's just playing their cards, they are much more likely to show when they aren't bluffing, because this is a player who I think tends to be a bit more non-confrontational. So they're not going to want to show you a bluff so that you fight back at them more, call them down lighter and stuff like that. They don't want that. So, yeah, that's kind of my vibe on that one. When a villain grabs their chips as if to bet and then they check instead, that is like almost always somebody who wants you to check. The reason that they're grabbing their chips and then checking is they want to threaten you that they are going to bet so that they slow you down and you don't bet. That's got to be like one of the most, in my opinion, the most obvious like live tells that I've noticed is every single time they do that and you have a value hand, bet. They're trying to get you to not bet, though they do have something. So you do need to think about that. But they're not always going to be calling. It does not mean they're always going to call. It primarily means that they just want you to check. So that's a massive one. And then this other note is kind of whatever. Thinking players think along the lines of value betting or bluffing. That's not really something I think for this video that I'll say too much on. This is just an old note that I had there. Just basically, you know, they are going to be not just doing things to do them. You know, it's not going to be as much randomness. There's going to be a bit of thought behind it. So that's probably a topic for another video. And card players who just play their cards are thinking along the lines of protecting and not getting sucked out on. So again, it's a bit more of a defensive approach and thought process from the players playing their cards. But from the thinking players, it's a bit more of a calculated approach as far as like where they're coming from. So yeah, this is basically my notes that I've had. I haven't talked about this. I've seen these slides in many, many years. So it was cool when I came across this. So I hope that this is helpful, whether you're an online player trying to go play live more, whether you're a live player who's new and you're trying to like figure some stuff out. These are just some notes and thoughts that I had and I wanted to share with everybody. So if you have any thoughts, questions, or comments, please drop them below. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And I will catch you in the next vid. So I hope you enjoyed. Peace. Thanks, everyone.
Everybody, thanks for making it to the end of my video. No one does that, do they? All right, look. I respond to comments, so please leave a comment below the description and let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, check out some of my last videos here. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button here. All right, my name is Drew. Peace out. Catch up with you later.